Hello, my passenger friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Carffice Podcast, my car office. I'm your host, Greg Gross. Please buckle up and enjoy the ride. Heyo, we're back! I have no idea why I do weird things like that, but as always, you are welcome. Welcome back to the Carffice Podcast. I know it's been a little bit. I'm not even going to try to sit here and apologize because life just happens. I had to keep pushing things. I told you, I think I made some updates and said, don't worry, it's coming out next week. Well, it's been literally, I think, over a month now. But it doesn't matter because that's in the past. And we are here right now in this moment. And I'm about to give you episode 16 of the Carffice Podcast. We're still in season 2, obviously, 3 episodes in. And I'm calling this episode Meet the New Greg, Part 3, 4 Stages of Faith. Meet the New Greg, Part 3, the 4 Stages of Faith. And you're going to see why it's a crazy long episode. Actually, I might just call it Meet the New Greg, Part 3. I don't know. I mean, sometimes it's just like I just do things and make it happen, and then you'll see. You already know what the episode's called because you're watching it. But here's the thing. I just want to thank everybody once again for being patient. I want to thank everybody for coming along for the ride and for all your support, for all your questions, for all your concern, for all your liking, subscribing, commenting, texting me, calling me, just letting me know what you think. And it just means a lot. As I've said from the beginning, this has been pretty therapeutic to me because I've just been able to kind of share my life from beginning till end. And I don't expect everybody to care or to agree with everything or to like everything. And that's okay because that's life, right? That is literally life. I heard a quote way back in the day that 90% of people will like you and 10% won't ever like you. So stop focusing on the 10% and just keep talking to the 90. Sometimes we waste so much energy. Actually, I'll say this. I know I used to waste so much energy on the 10% trying to get them to like me. And it was actually pretty dumb to do that. And just got to fix the camera here just a tad. There we go. I hope that didn't mess anything up. Did it? Did it mess anything up, my people? Let me check really quick. This is fun. This is like live. Nope, we're good. We're good. We figured it out. There you go. I just thought the camera was crooked, but I didn't want to start over. So, a little recap. Meet the New Greg, Part 1, Part 2. Honestly, I don't even almost remember what it was about. I probably need to go back and listen. But just kind of give a framework of where I'm at. And you probably should, if you haven't listened to Meet the New Greg Part 1 and 2, you probably need to go back and listen to those to give more context to this episode. Otherwise, there's going to be enjoy this one. Keep listening, but this one's going to make a lot more sense if you actually listen to Part 1 and Part 2. That's why they're in parts. And I just realized I haven't shaved in a while either, but I've talked about that before, and I don't care. I think I'll shave maybe tomorrow. I'm very scruffy, as you can see, patchy as well. So that's just how it is, people. Well, hey, I want to start off, actually. No, I'm going to say this first, and I'll probably say this at the end. I do have notes, by the way, but that doesn't ever matter, does it? No. Let's see here. Oh, with not coming on in a while to this podcast, I've realized that I knocked out the first 13 podcasts in season 1 fairly quickly. I had a couple breaks, but that was easier to knock out because it's things that already happened in my life. I already had a story. I already had something I wanted to talk about, add value, share with you. Well, Part 1 and Part 2 of Meet the New Greg, that's all new. That's all fresh. That's all going on right now. This episode is literally something that what I'm about to share with you is something that's happened in my life in just this past month as well. So what I'm trying to say here is I just want to let you guys know that I probably will not be dropping an episode every week now. Obviously, I haven't dropped an episode in like a month. So I don't even know if I want to give you a schedule. I mean, sometimes it could be back to back, maybe twice a month, maybe once a month, maybe once every 6 weeks. Here's the thing, and this is why. I've realized now, because I'm in this season and there's a lot going on and there's a lot of changes, there's a lot of things I just am going through and not understanding. I just don't want to come on and do an episode if I know my mind and my thoughts are not at least collected in a way that I can share. And I just want to come on here and ramble and talk and not give any substance or any value to you. That would make sense. So maybe what actually took me a little longer for this episode is that main fact alone. Like I could have recorded it a few weeks ago, but I'm glad I kind of did wait and that life didn't allow me to record it, because I am so much more understanding in the depth of this topic that I'm going to talk to you about. Makes more sense to me, so I'll be able to hopefully communicate it better to you. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. I guess you're just going to have to stay tuned. I guess you're just going to have to, be patient, and I'll try to give updates and maybe a week heads up of, hey, a new episode's dropping next week. But just want to let you know, it's not going to be an every Monday thing. But when I do drop an episode, it will be on a Monday. I can tell you that much, at least. Couple more housekeeping things, I guess, because it's been a while. First, as you can see, I'm wearing this awesome shirt with this funny looking 44. Actually, I think it's not funny looking. I think it's pretty awesome looking. And this shirt is, like, seriously one of the comfiest shirts I own now. So shout out to my buddy Matt and his buddy Ryan, which I kind of know you too, Ryan. At least I think we're friends on Facebook, so we know each other, right? That's how this world works. But what was I gonna say? Well, anyways, this shirt, the reason I'm wearing it, because my buddy gifted it to me. I actually gifted him with one of my Never Walk hats, and we just did a little branding exchange. But I want to give a shout out to them, because it will actually make sense, especially because of the season of life that I'm in. But they have a brand called Expedition 44 or 44, and they actually have a podcast that goes along with it. And I'm going to sound really smart here in a second, but I am not smart at all. This is all coming from my buddy Matt and his friend Ryan, and their heart behind this. They created all this. Actually, Matt's one of my main buddies and friends. He's also a pastor that knows Hebrew and Greek and has helped me with a lot of my deconstruction and a lot of my questions. And he's such a good sounding board and so open and so honest and so respectful, and he's just so stinking smart. Thank you so much, Matt. Hey, remember, if you're the smartest person in the room, you better get out of that room. Or if you know everything in that room, better find a new room, new circles. All right. If you want to grow, you got to find people that are further along in areas in your life. So that's a Matt to me, especially when it comes to Hebrew and Greek. So, and just knowing the Bible. But okay, so anyways, this 44, this is what he shared with me, and I got some notes. I don't want to mess it up. I'll give a little bit of context. So here's the thing. In Hebrew, there's a thing that numbers are equated to letters in the Hebrew alphabet. So the number for holy or holiness is 22. And there's another thing in the Bible that's called a double portion. So 44 is a representation of the double portion of holiness, to be set apart. So basically, to sum it up in one sentence, it's a journey to a double portion of holiness. That's Expedition 44. They have a podcast. Go check it out, Expedition 44. If I figure out how to put a link somewhere in my bio of this episode, I will do that. Otherwise, all you got to do is Google or type in Expedition 44 on YouTube. I believe they're on YouTube. Or for sure, they're on Apple Podcasts, because that's where I listen to them. And no, they really break. They are, oh my gosh, they are so technical, and I love it. They break things down in a way that, again, I don't think I'll ever be able to, but they do it in such an unbiased way too. Very edifying way if you want to dig deeper. If you want to read your Bible with a shovel and not a rake, check out Expedition 44. So shout out to you guys. Also, a little funny thing Matt told me about the 44 is Ryan, I guess, likes to work on 4x4 Jeeps. And both of them, Ryan and Matt, have 4 kids. So 44, it just a fun little side note. So, hey, thank you guys so much again for the gear. Shout out to you guys. And, yeah, if you're listening to this on the Carffice Podcast, go check out, one more time, Expedition 44. Funny story behind this episode that I'm about to go into. I actually tried to record it once already. I was on the way to the Cleveland airport to pick up my buddy a couple weeks ago, and I had it all set up, all ready to go. I thought I double checked it all, and by the time I was done recording, and I looked at it like 40 minutes later, it didn't record. So yeah, there you go. So I did try. That was kind of cool. I was like driving. I had it up here. I was safe. You know, I felt like really cool. We're actually driving in the Carffice Podcast. I know. Maybe I'll try it again someday. But I think I'm just going to use my dash cam because that probably will be easier than my phone. But yeah, that was actually really disheartening. But again, I'm glad that, because that episode was all over the place, but so is this one, so it doesn't really matter. So, all right, we're going to jump in to the 4 stages of faith. 4 stages of faith. Where is this coming from? Well, I listened to another podcast called Bible for Normal People. Go check them out. I don't know them personally, but they give some, oh my gosh, they've been around, I think, for a little while, and they're amazing. I listen to them periodically, and they came out with an episode called 4 Stages of Faith. So yes, I do, the disclaimer, pretty much all the information I'm about to give you is from that episode. So I don't want to plagiarize. I want to give them credit. Bible for Normal People. I don't remember the episode number, but it's called the 4 Stages of Faith. But this episode is the last episode I listened to when it's correlating to my current faith journey, where it has really, it's helped me put context to where I am, like a framework to where I am. This 4 stages of faith is not like, the say all or do all. It's not, it's not like, I don't know what word I'm trying to use. It can be abused and stuff like that, but I just hope this is something that will help you maybe understand more where you're at. Hopefully more understand where I'm at if you care, but it's put a framework and I'm able to communicate things better. So that's why we are going from the episode. And I encourage you, you're going to see, if you go back and listen to their episode, the 4 Stages of Faith from the Bible for Normal People, you're going to see that they do it way better than what I'm going to explain, but I'm going to explain it in such a way that it's going to relate to my life, but all the info is coming from that episode. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that as well. And all that good stuff. So we're going to jump in. I know, finally, right? After all, I don't even know how long it's been. Maybe about 10 minutes of introductions. So you're welcome. All right, here we go. We're going to jump in, finally, to the 4 stages of faith, which, again, are simplicity, complexity, perplexity, harmony. Okay? So first one, simplicity. Simplicity is pretty simple. It's this literally, boom, what you were born into. You didn't really have a choice in this. Either whoever gave you your beliefs or values system was all based on nature and nurture, mostly family. I'm guessing family, friends. You're at a stage in your life where you're at a brain development where it can't really go really past simplicity anyways, because this is basically from birth to adolescence to, usually you can't start getting to the next stage until most likely puberty. But this is where the brain is at a place where it really can't go beyond like easy questions, easy answers. Okay. And this could go again for any religion, Hinduism, Buddhism. This could even have a framework for politics, any belief system or value system. You can kind of relate simplicity to. So like you're going to get an answer. You're gonna easy questions, easy answers. Here it is, spoon-fed to you. You don't argue, you don't question. It's just all black and white, people. It's just all black and white. And again, a lot of it is because it's not like you can go past it because of your science, like brain development. So that's simplicity. Like if we're gonna relate this to church, it's like, okay, I'm a Christian. This is what I believe, heaven and hell. And if you don't believe what I believe, you are wrong and you're going to hell. Like, it's very simple. If you don't have this simple answer for this simple question, like, it doesn't make sense to me. So how I keep it making sense, I'm going to stay comfortable and I'm going to stay in this little box. And that's my simple life right now. Like, I don't want you in my box. I don't want you near my box because you're going to offend me. And this is the way, it's my way or the highway. That's simplicity. There's really actually no room for growth or to even allow people in to your system of beliefs and values. So that's the first thing. So stage two is a little different. It's called complexity. And like I said, this is where your brain's developing a little bit more. This probably maybe happens for people for the first time. This type of thinking is in when you're going through puberty, and things start to break down a little bit. What I mean by that is things aren't so simple anymore. So basically, these people that you've trusted, your parents, pastors, mentors, leaders, things start to go a little AWOL maybe. Maybe your pastor has an affair. Maybe a leader steals money out of the bucket. Maybe your parents are getting divorced. You're like, what is going on? I thought you told me one thing, but why are you doing a different thing? And it starts getting confusing and scaring, and you start questioning some things, and it goes from easy answers to looking for a coach. Things are pragmatic, and really some parachurches did a great job with this early on and still do, going this complexity, like kind of starting to think a little bit different, like Young Life Navigators, Campus Crusades, Youth for Christ, where I worked at one time. We're kind of like some of the forerunners to complexity thinking. Like, hey, I'm over here, I think this way. It's okay that you're over here and think that way. We're not going to like shun you or like hate you or like say you're going to hell, but I still think my way's better. But it's okay that you have your way, and I respect that. But we still have to figure out how to work together. So that's like complexity. Like, that's the biggest difference between simplicity and complexity. Simplicity, again, is like my way or the highway, heaven or hell. If you don't believe what I believe, boom, get out of my way. Complexity is, okay, it's okay that you believe what you believe, but I still believe what I believe. I still have my church over here, my bubble over here. So we have to like get along with each other and still learn how to work together sometimes, because actually you can still have complexity within a same church and organization as well. But many times there's still a mix of, the believing that the purpose of the Bible is giving a simple answer. And so what also can happen in complexity and help people in the complexity is like, okay, you might have a leader or a pastor you go up to, hey, what's the answer to this? And they're like, well, actually, there could be 4 answers to this. And you're like, wait, what? I thought this was simple. And all of a sudden it gets a little more complex. You're like, no, you're actually going to get to an answer 4 different ways. And then you're like, oh my gosh. And this could actually also start happening like, let's see, different topics. Like, different topics don't become so easy. Like, a lot of times simplicity and complexity, when it comes to a church, this can happen a lot in like mega churches. So for instance, they don't want to talk about theology or free will versus destination or predestination. They want to talk about maybe, hey, 5 steps to a good marriage. Like, keep it safe. They don't want to talk about racism or different things that will go against their vision, mission, or agenda. And if you start going against their vision, mission, or agenda as an outspoken person, as a leader, being in a different, you're leading people or you're on staff, they might shun you. They might ask you to quiet down. They might ask you to go over to that corner. They might ask you to leave altogether. You might get fired because they don't want it to disturb what they have going on, because what they have going on is more important to them than stirring the pot. And so I don't know if anybody's ever been a part of those types of situations. I know I have. And it's messy and it's not fun. And so that's kind of a little bit of differences between simplicity and complexity. Complexity is also, when someone gets all their news from like Fox News, right? So like, I'm over in this bubble, I believe this, I'm getting fed all this. You can go over here and that's fine, get fed all this, but they build their whole world belief system around Fox News. That's another example. To separate it, yeah, so that's it. Then we move into stage 3, perplexity. Okay, this is more about mysticism. It can be more critical, cynical, and I'm just going to come out and say this. This is where I started. I moved into this about 8 months ago in January, February of 2021. I would not say I'm at the beginning stages of perplexity anymore. I have moved some things into the 4th stage, which we'll learn about here in a little bit, called harmony, but I'm still in perplexity with many things, and I'm slowly figuring out how to move into harmony, which, by the way, again, and I can't remember if I mentioned this, we need to be respectful to wherever somebody is. Simplicity, complexity, perplexity, harmony. Okay, like, again, this is a framework. This is not like, this is it. Like, you have to frame your whole life around this. But this has given great context and framework to my life. And so if we know or can identify if someone's in simplicity, complexity, perplexity, or harmony, we need to be respectful, grace-filled, empathetic. There's no rush in any of these stages. per se. I might come back to that a little bit, but like, it's okay if someone's in a certain stage, and we shouldn't try to force somebody out of it. It's okay with educating and having conversation, but people are still in a stage or going into a stage or a part of a stage for a reason. There's definitely reasons to it. So perplexity, this is when things start to break down, guys. Once you encounter enough complexity, you start seeing what your authority figures told you in simplicity, and much of it was wrong and misguided. You start entering perplexity. You start rejecting stage 1 and 2. You start maybe being a little bit more upset about some things or bitter. You start having some unforgiveness, and you got to work through that, by the way. It's not, you don't want to stay there. Skepticism. A lot of this in the real world, you can think of complexity going to perplexity from bachelor's degree to graduate school. You know, when you get to graduate school, your professors are not just telling you what to think, but how to think, being more critical in your thinking. And so that's kind of the worldview of looking at this. Like, you start like, I don't know, that's what I learned in my bachelor's school, but now in graduate school, it's like it looks different, it smells different, it tastes different. Like, actually, I can work it different. And so you start questioning and doubting more things. Hello, deconstruction. But actually, I like the word being in a season of perplexity more than a season of deconstruction now, if I had to choose. But yes, you're more cynical, critical thinking. The mysticism part is like having the ability to live with unknowing. And I am definitely there, my passenger friends. I'm okay with unknowing some things. Remember, I'm okay with I don't need to be right. The more I know, the less I know. The moment I think I know something, I know nothing. This unknowing is unraveling, and you're okay with it. You kind of sit in it, and you need to for a while. Like, you're not forever, but you need to if you want to work through this stage. But when you're ready to take steps to move forward, that's when we get into something called harmony. There you go. You like that? Harmony. Like in music, you have harmonies. Anyone want to create a harmony with me? Okay, let's move on. So now you start to integrate all the stages in a healthy way. But some things, you realize that some things have to be right and wrong. Okay, not everything can be gray or black and white. You have to start making some decisions. Some things you realize in simplicity was not as simple as they told you, but there was some value there, so you go back to that. It starts to become more pragmatic. You value some things in complexity. But the problem with stage 3, again, with perplexity, is like everything's broken apart. But now it's like that brick wall that I broke earlier that I explained to you in other episodes of my faith. You got to start picking up some more pieces. You got to start placing that wall back together. And it can't be as much gray. You can still have gray. Okay, I still believe there's going to always be more gray than black and white. But it start to put a framework back together. So if we reach stage 4, here's a fun thing. If we reach stage 4 before we have children, hey, this is great. I mean, I got children, so that's another thing me and Courtney have talked about. It's like, oh my gosh, you know, we're humans. We're kind of in a little of a messy. Remember, we're not messed up, but we're living with some mess right now with some of our beliefs and our faith and everything and our values. Like, so what do we give our kids? Well, first of all, we give them Jesus. I still believe that. Remember, Jesus is the way, the truth, and life. We can still love them and give them a framework. But if you're a parent and you can fully move to harmony, and as we're doing that, what do we offer to our kids? How can we, help them as they're in stage 1, 2, and 3 in a way that they'll help them grow beyond those stages in a healthy way, not let them get stuck? Because unfortunately, many of us are still living in simplicity or complexity because we are never given a guidance to grow into perplexity or give freedom to grow into perplexity and then learn how to live in harmony. So, but we don't want to rush it. Remember, we don't want to rush things. We want to help navigate things. For instance, how can we do this? A couple different examples that was shared in the podcast, which I loved. So how can we help navigate our children, but not just our children, just people? Okay, how about this? Love these examples, by the way, that they gave. So the first thing in Hinduism, if you knew this or not, that picture books, and just like we in Christianity have picture books for kids, but in Hinduism, a lot of their gods are blue. They're blue, and so it's like it would be like a Hindu child coming to a mother and be like, hey, why are all the gods blue? Like, it doesn't make sense. And the mom's saying, you know what? They're just blue. Don't ask any questions. Just trust me. Okay? Well, that would be keeping that child in complexity, simplicity, more probably almost simplicity, my way or the highway, right? But what if the mom answered, you know what? Like, why do you think the illustrator decided to color them blue? What meaning can we get out of this? What is this story telling you or teaching you? What is your opinion in learning, and how do you interpret this? Honestly, one of the best religious cultures that do this best right now is Judaism, because they have these rabbis that teach these things, and they have so much respect for their teachers, and they have constructive arguments with them, and they still respect the rabbis from the past and their teachings, and they bring in the new teachings, and they're able to have these conversations that are edifying to still grow and learn and have open mind and critical thinking with each other. And there's room for growth. There's room for questioning. There's room for doubting. And so Jewish people in their community do this the best, probably. Also, another story, maybe to relate more to Christianity now, it's like, how about a son coming home from Sunday school, and he's like, Dad, you wouldn't believe this story that I heard at Sunday school. Oh my gosh, I heard about these good guys, and they were crossing this Red Sea, and they're running away from these bad guys. And before they got to the Red Sea, God opened it up, and they were able to cross on dry land. And then it closed up right as the bad guys were crossing it, and they all drowned and they all died. And it's just this crazy story. Dad, could you believe this story? And the dad could respond two different ways. He'd be like, yeah, son, it is crazy, but that's what we believe, and that's what you have to believe. So stop asking me questions about that. Just trust me. Sound familiar? Better lack of words? Or the dad could say, you know what, son? That is a crazy story. I can understand why you think that. There's even some biblical and Hebrew scholars that still talk about the validity of that story and what really happened. So let's not maybe concentrate so much on how crazy it sounds or if it's real or not, but what's the meaning? What did you get out of that story? What did you learn out of that story, son? What stuck out to you? How can we grow and learn as people through that story? Doesn't that sound so different? Doesn't that just like blow your mind? I've been starting to do that with my own kids now when they ask me certain questions, like just allowing them to be critical thinkers and ask questions, and it's okay. So much different. Teach them how to think than what to think. Because it can be dangerous, my passenger friends. Like, especially when we tell our kids, like, hey, just pray, God will take care of you. Whatever you're praying, God will take care of you. Well, we know if we live long enough that's not always the case. So we don't want to harm them in this process, going through these stages. But what can we do to make it healthier? I love this analogy. They shared this in the podcast. It's like teaching children the Bible. Stay with me here. Teaching children the Bible is like teaching children about sex. You don't want to tell them more than they're ready for, but you don't want to tell them anything that you'll have to untell them later. So let me say that again. Teaching children the Bible is like teaching children about sex. You don't want to tell them more than they're ready for, but you don't want to tell them anything that you'll have to untell them later. So it's just sensitivity. Slow down, be respectful, and help each other and our children, if you're parents, to be critical thinking and ask them, hey, what's the meaning? What's the meaning? How can we interpret the Bible, more openly and not just literally? And not always having to take it so seriously, but just finding the meaning behind it. Doesn't that sound so much more just deep breath freeing and welcoming? How about this? The story, think of it this way. The stories that we read in the Bible too, if we want to keep this towards Christianity, the story can have meaning whether or not if it's true. Did you know that? A story can have meaning whether or not if it's true. And that could relate to the Bible as well. And I know some of you are like, oh, where are you going with this, Greg? You're stepping on my toe here. Well, if Christians have a hard time believing that a story can have meaning whether it's true or not, then you have to ask yourself, why did Jesus speak in parables? Because he seemed to think that made-up fictional stories were some of the most important tools in his repertoire. Remember, parables weren't true, but they held so much meaning. So it's just something to chew on there. So again, back to the 4 stages, deconstruction, that's basically kind of what the 4 stages do to us. So what's the move then from perplexity to harmony? Faith after doubt and cynicism, right? What are some of the blockages that keep people from getting to harmony? Our Christian communities, we don't usually have a problem with doubt, but with authority. Think about that. I know I did. As I'm going through perplexity, I've had to think back to different people that have had authority over my life, and they just taught me what to think, not how to think. And I can get mad, and I can get bitter, and I can get unforgiving. I'm like, what were they thinking? Why are they teaching me this? Because then I taught it, and then I passed it on, but the same thing happened to them, and we just don't know better, right? But it's more about doubt isn't the enemy of faith, but authoritarianism is. So outside looking in, how can we have empathy, patience, more understanding by looking at examples like this one, like having more empathy and grace? And so think of it as this way. Back in the day, 14-year-olds, or younger would get married and have like 8 to 10 kids, right? But let's say they grew up in simplicity and then complexity, and then they have these kids at a young age, and 8 to 10 of them, what are they teaching them? Well, simple and complex thoughts of how to believe things in the Bible, or if they're Christians, right? Now, if they keep teaching that to all 8 to 10 kids, by the time each kid is out of the house, they're 18, that 14-year-old, maybe they don't even step into a chance of perplexity until they're in their 40s, right? So again, with that, who knows after all those years, into their 40s, into their 50s, how deep they're in that simplicity or complexity, those stages. I mean, just think how hard it would even come to a point to want to explore perplexity. So basically, I give this example today. I give this example to help us, to help me, to help you if you're at this place, to go from perplexity to harmony, and to realize we need to have more grace. We need to have more empathy. We are all born into certain situations, nature and nurture, and we have to have more grace and understanding for people's situations. Like for me, I didn't choose my nature and nurture. I don't know about you. And so if we look at an example like this, it helps us understand that, some people could be stuck their whole life in stage 1 and 2 without even realizing it. So, and again, I'm going to relate this to myself first. I kind of mentioned this kind of stuff already. Like, we can get so mad at authority for simplicity and complexity. Oh my gosh, why did you only teach me this way or that or this? But so we have to come to terms with it. If we want to start shifting into harmony, in my understanding, based on these 4 stages, we have to come to terms and not be so upset anymore at the people that taught us or led us. We have to start to realize there's a reason about why they were like that. That I could have been like that, or I was like that, because that's the truth. I'll be the first one to admit. I taught out of simplicity and complexity all my years as a pastor and youth pastor. I did. And looking back, it's to me, I'm just going to say it. You don't have to say it for yourself, but it's sad. It's sad that I only taught out of a simplistic or complex mindset of faith and beliefs, and I just more so taught people what to think than how to think. And I need to own that, and I needed to repent from that and talk to God about that, and realize, man, me myself could have gone deeper in those years, or I could have maybe helped someone else go deeper, and there could have been maybe some less pain and hurt in a lot of different situations. So they're just humans. I'm just human. Remember, I'm not messed up. We're just humans, and we can be messy when we go through these different seasons. So we have to get to a place, we have to ask ourselves a question. If I'm not going to live under their dominant in their authority anymore, in this leadership anymore, and I'm not going to remain bitter and angry at them for the rest of my life, then I need to start taking authority over my own life. That's steps to growing up, my friends, my passenger friends. That's steps to growing up. So if we don't want to be mad anymore, if we don't want to remain with bitterness, anger, and unforgiveness, now it's time to move forward. Take responsibility of where we're at and grow up. I mean, we kind of see this wrestle with, in another practical sense, with teenagers, right? Teenagers become teenagers. There's all these hormones going on. As parents, we want to stifle that and say, no, this is the way, this is the way, this is the way. They fight against us. There's all this tension. But rather, if we just help guide them and help them ask them right questions and taught them how to think, not what to think, maybe, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. Come on. I remember I had teenagers' years. It was messy. But maybe we could help them through it in a healthier way. We need to grow up, make decisions on our own, live with the bad, the ugly, the consequences of our choices. It's a hard step, but it must happen if we're going to cross into harmony. And plus, again, it shows maturity. And it's almost as kind of like this thought of detoxing from simplicity or complexity, simple thoughts, certain people, social media platforms. It's like going from this authority of God and others. And yes, sometimes we have to have trust in our own inner voice too about what to do and about what God is doing and what God is saying and not what the system is always telling us. So it's really this concept too of like, hey, people always talk about detoxing from certain things, but why not what we grew up in? Why not take a chance? Why not see where that goes and at least explore that? Man, it's just one of those things. Like, I know for me, as I've been thinking about perplexity and figuring out how to shift into harmony, again, it comes back to, what do I believe at this point? What do I believe? And because as a whole, again, I was not taught to have this way of thinking. And you know what? They definitely don't teach us in the Western evangelical culture. And it's something that really needs to change, in my opinion. We need to take a step back. And if you're in that culture, man, again, I'm not saying these 4 stages solve everything, but my goodness, again, they do put a good skeleton and framework to where we're at. And maybe you need to ask yourself where you're at and how can we help people more than hurt people? How can we guide people more than push people into something? Because it's going to continually be dangerous for us and the people around us if we don't take a step back and a deep breath and realize, yeah, we have done a lot of wrong. We need to start owning things before we can start helping or fixing things better. Again, this goes same thing with politics. I'm not getting into politics right now. I don't see myself as a political person, but it just goes back to the fact we can be brought up in such a culture of certain politics and values and beliefs that way that we get stuck in that lane too. But it's good to have not what to think, but how to think through those things. So, and if you're a Christian and you're struggling with any of this that I've been sharing, which again, a lot of this is from the podcast, The Bible for Normal People, and you've been struggling with a lot of these concepts, try this on for a second, okay? Talking about going against some of the system or whatever. Remember when Jesus talked about, I didn't come to bring peace but the sword? Remember that? Remember when he said that? I will bring people against one another, fathers against sons, so on and so forth. Jesus is saying, I'm here to upset some things. Saying younger generation can have its own dreams, don't have to repeat what their elders are saying. I believe that means that the younger generation does not have to accept or do everything the older generation has shared with them or toward them to believe. They're set apart, and God can use them here and now in a different, fresh way. But again, oh boy, I was never taught this by certain people, and we can't miss this. It's almost like a complex way of thinking, but really not. It almost feels like it'd be an act of disloyalty if we pushed back. But man, why do we always forget that, can I still respect and love someone but disagree with them? Yeah, I can. And I can still be grateful for them, even in difficult times. And for some people, it's so hard to wrap their minds around, oh my gosh, they believe this, they do this, they live this way, so I can't even have them part of my life. I can't love and respect them and be there for them. And it's, again, that's that simplistic, for sure, the simplistic mindset more than anything. Bible has heavily been taught, and here's the other scary thing, my passenger friends. The Bible has heavily been taught by stage 1 people, like a stage 1 document. Oh my goodness. I don't, if you don't agree with that, then we're definitely not on the same page, and that's fine. But if you think about it, the Bible has been taught mainly by stage 1. Obviously, stage 2 is in there too. Way more than stage 3 or stage 4. It's been taught by stage 1, stage 2 people, like a stage 1, stage 2 document. And that's scary too. And I was one of those people too. Again, I'm taking complete ownership. So how do we set how do we set ourselves apart then? How do we like confront some of these things? Well, let's look at scripture. Again, I'm not a biblical Hebrew scholar. They brought up a good point in the podcast that I want to break down for you. Let's see what Paul did when it came to these different complex things, when there's more than one answer, or when things weren't always clear back then. Let's look at Romans 13, 1 Corinthians chapter 11 through 14, issues like meat sacrifice to idols. It's a matter of freedom and consciousness. Paul refuses to say what is right or wrong. And they were so upset with this. And they're like, no, this can't, there has to be right or wrong, Paul. Tell us what's right or wrong. You're Paul. You need to tell us. You got a direct line to God. Like, he speaks right through you. Like, what's going on? And we get like this on so many different topics. I'm not going to even bring them up. So many different controversial topics right now in the church that we think there's a right or wrong. We think it's black or white, but it's more gray. And why isn't it more clear? And here's the thing. It becomes more of a stage of two problems. And how do we manage this? This is how. Let's continue. He presents how we can manage this. Stage 4 is kind of how he presents it in a stage 4 mindset. What do I mean by that? In the middle of both of those passages from Romans and 1 Corinthians comes a call to love. Oh, wow. Crazy, huh? We're back to love. He's talking about when I was a child, I spoke like a child. I want to become mature. He pushes love to the top of the agenda. He's like, hey, love is better than faith, than hope, than rules, than laws, than black and white. Love. Love is above all things. So stop looking at this topic that there needs to be a correct answer. There needs to be some solidification here. But why don't we just love? Why don't we just move forward in love and respect and honor? Because here's the thing. When I stand before my parents or any leaders or past leaders or pastors in my life, I can do it in a loving way. When we stand before Pharaoh, I don't hate Pharaoh, but I can simply say, let my people go. Let my people go. Oh, man. So that's why, what I do with the Bible now, and again, I'm still discovering, I'm still exploring. It's just, again, it's not as black and white anymore. And it creates a social dilemma. Yeah, heck yeah, it does. What do I mean by that? It's like, I'm going to have to face certain people in my life, parents, friends, pastors, leaders, people that are still in ministry. I've already had some conversations. Like, it's going to create a social dilemma. People aren't going to, oh man, that Greg guy, what is he doing? What is he thinking? Oh, he's one of those people now? Oh, what is one of those people now? You know what I'm saying? Oh, I had friends like that. They went off the rocker and now they're crazy. They don't even love Jesus or the church anymore and all this kind of stuff. And so, okay, so we don't talk to those people anymore? Can you still love those people? Can you still come around those people? Oh, yeah, I've tried. Oh, no, you've probably tried to push your agenda on them. But have you just loved them? Because that's what Paul's saying here. Like, no matter where somebody's at, no matter what stage that we're talking about today or season of life, do we lead with love? Faith expressing itself in love. Love your neighbor as yourself. Simplicity. Love is the most important. Greatest commandment. Loving God, our neighbors as ourselves. And the thing is, though, we're going to need one or two people in our lives that give us permission to think, to allow us to ask these questions. I've already shared this multiple times. I would not be able to be where I'm at today in a healthy place with all this if I didn't force myself around people or if I didn't accept the people God has brought to me. Like I said, I have a life coach, I have a health coach, I have a therapist, I have biblical and Hebrew scholar friends, I talk to pastor friends all the time, and I keep an open mind, and they're speaking and I'm speaking, and I have people that have gone before me in perplexity and deconstruction, different things. I'm listening to podcasts, I'm reading books. Like, I'm just not going to this blind, my passenger friends. And I really encourage you not to either. That's why I'm trying to give you different resources and the Bible for Normal People or this other podcast, Expedition 44, just expand your mind. What are you so afraid of? Like, I get it. It's tough. It's hard. It's not a fun road to go down. It is scary. As I believe I mentioned before in other podcasts, like, it was really, when I first started it was really dark. It was really confusing. I cried a lot. I mean, I always cry. But it was lonely. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Remember, I thought I was messed up. I'm not messed up. I'm just human, and so are you. And God knows that. God God knows that. Anything that you've thought or that you faced or everything that I'm talking about right now, guess what? It's already been talked about in a different way, shape, or form. Guess what? When you're gone and I'm gone 200 years from now, it's going to be revisited again. There's nothing new under the sun, right? So what are we so afraid of? Why we want to remain so comfortable? I mean, maybe ask yourself this. Like, maybe some of you are sitting there right now and you're like, Greg, what you're saying is making me really uncomfortable. It's making me angry. It's offending me. I can't believe you've gone down this road, Greg. Like, I remember the Delano, the Beloit, the Burlington P. Greg, and it just sounds like you don't even love Jesus anymore. Well, if that's what it sounds like, you've heard nothing, and you need to go listen to my other podcasts. First of all, I love Jesus. I've said it over and over and over again. That's one brick I have in place. I can't imagine trying to explain what that fully looks like in my life right now, but I still have faith in Jesus. I know he's the way, the truth, and the life, but doesn't mean I can't question. Doesn't mean I can't doubt. Doesn't mean I can't go through this season of perplexity. It doesn't mean you can't either. It doesn't mean you can't accept me or we can't give patience and grace and empathy for people in stage 1, 2, 3, or 4. And I guess I've come to a point in this podcast where I just want to let you know this. I'm not giving up on the church. No, if you think that too, I definitely have not. I believe in the church. I hope to go back to the four walls of the church someday and find a community, because I believe there are people still out there that are leading and growing and flowing out of love with their faith and hope. That they're not leading in faith and hope. They're not like, this is what it is, faith, hope, I'm hopeful for this, faith. You just need faith. No, or this is what you need to believe. No, I believe there's more people leading out of love, right? Come as you are. No matter what they think the Bible says or doesn't say, because again, 99.9% of us are not biblical and Hebrew scholars. And we exhaust and waste so much energy on stupid stuff and arguments for our own ego, honestly, and pride and insecurities. So, like, going back to this, like, what if you are this? I'm not saying you are. I don't want to assume. Maybe someone on here is. If you are at a place in this kind of talk, or you're like, man, what you're talking about today, Greg, is scary and it does offend me or it does frustrate me. Have you ever asked yourself why it does? Why does it scare you? Why does it offend you? Why does it upset you? Have you ever thought about why you have those emotions? I encourage you to figure that out. And if your impulse is saying, well, because Greg, like that's, you're not preaching truth, you're not preaching the Bible. I want to defend the Bible. Why do you feel the need to defend the Bible? I mean, do you think that's your job? Did God call you to defend the Bible? I'm pretty sure God can do that on his own without you, me, or anybody. So, I mean, again, some of you ain't going to like to hear this, but I can speak this because I speak this out of experience. I've gone through this. I've gone through this over the last 8 months, and this is what I've discovered about myself. And maybe this is something you'll discover about yourself too. Is the reason you might be having those feelings, the reason you might be offended, frustrated, is because it's going against every morsel that you've ever believed. And if you start thinking, if you start going down any way that I have, or you've seen other people, it's going to totally derail. You're going to have to admit you're wrong. It's ego, it's pride, it's insecurity. And we all hate those things. We all hate dealing with our ego, pride, and insecurities. We don't like to face that because that's uncomfortable. But if we're comfortable, we're not growing. So, I've had to face a lot of that. I've had to look back at a lot of conversations I've had with students, with past pastors, with leaders, how I led for years. And I'm disappointed in myself. Yeah, did God use me? Did God do great things in all the ministries I was a part? Absolutely. I'm not saying it was all for naught, for a waste. No. Still talk to so many of my past leaders and students and reach out, and we've got on phone calls and we've talked, and even have another one this next week with one. And like, no, I don't. No. But it still doesn't mean I wish I could go back and do some things differently. It still doesn't mean I wish I could go back and teach and preach more out of perplexity and and harmony. Obviously more harmony than perplexity, but man, but I can't. Past is gone. Tomorrow's not promised. All we got is right now in the present. And so that's why I want to share with my audience. If you know me, if you knew me in the past or you get to know me now, I just want to again apologize to past students, past leaders, past pastors, past staff people, like, and know if there's anything I ever did to harm you, or that I taught you, or how I guided. Well, I didn't really guide. I taught more like what to think than how to think. I just encourage you to know God's bigger. God loves you. I love you. And no, I didn't know any better, unfortunately. And I'm trying to make those rights wrong. And I was a part of a system, a broken system. And it's hard to own all that. It really is. It's hard to own all that. Just love God and love people. Gosh, it's so simple. Love God and love people. So we're going to close things down for this episode. Again, like I've already shared with you earlier, I don't know when I'm going to do another episode. Just know if you ever see the Carffice Podcast come through on my social media and other episodes about to drop, just know that it's going to have value. I don't want to record anything unless it has value moving forward. Meaning this, all my first episodes, like I already had it inside my head and heart. It was my life. And then meet the new Greg 1, 2, and 3. Like I'm living this right now, so I might not have something new to say that's of value, and I just don't want to come on here. So this episode took me 3 or 4 weeks just to figure out. I'm glad I postponed it because I think I'm in a place that it was much better presented because I took so long to record it. I hope it added value to you. It's been helping me. Again, maybe I'll do a Uber Lyft episode sometime soon to lighten up the mood a little bit. But I won't be sharing every week. Maybe every other week, once a month. Every 6 weeks, but just stay tuned, just stay tuned. If I do drop an episode, it'll be on Mondays. And just want to remind you guys, hey, go check out Bible for Normal People, 4 Stages of Faith. You're going to get so much better context to what I shared today from them. You'll hear some of the same things. Go check out Expedition 44, my good friend Matt and his friend Ryan. Dude, if you want to really dig down and read the Bible with a couple shovels and stop piddle-paddling with a rake, or you just want some different perspective, want to be stretched, want to be challenged, want to feel uncomfortable a little bit, then go check this out. And then I just want to thank everybody once again, for your support, for your likes, for subscribing, for challenging, for calling, for texting, for commenting, for sharing, for just your support. Regardless if you agree with everything I say or not, that doesn't matter to me. Again, I'm in a place in my life, I'm good with not knowing things. I don't want to sound like I do know things. Remember, this framework was just a framework. It can be abused. It's just the 4 stages of faith. It's just a good framework skeleton. It's helped me so much to figure out where I was, where I am, and where I need to go. And I hope that's what it did for you today too. I really do. So thanks again. Appreciate you all. But hey, that's it. All right, my passenger friends, I hope you enjoyed your ride today in my Carffice. I hope it helped you in your current location or towards your next destination. Until next time, be well.